Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I am once again joined by Arterian and Sir Matt. How you guys doing?
We're doing.
awake.
We're cooking.
What you cooking?
We're on patrol.
You smell what the Matt's cooking?
We're actively seeking. Yeah. Can you smell what the Matt is cooking?
Can you feel the love tonight?
Remind me why I do this again.
It doesn't matter why you do this.
I didn't know
It doesn't
why you
matter.
do it, man.
Anyway, well, we have an interesting video to watch and comment on, and I've watched it, and I'm still confused as to why it was made in the beginning.
So is this Mr. Spock interesting, like it can convert to anything? Or something that's actually interesting?
Well, it depends.
What kind of meds did they give you?
So that depends, like could be either way, or depends like those adult diapers.
Yes. Anyway,
Information. Let's go.
Since it's kind of a surprise to these guys, I'll pop it up and hopefully they'll enjoy it. Let me know if there's audio or not.
There's no picture.
It's not gonna have a picture.
There's nothing.
You hear?
I don't hear it.
The world is changed.
Very
I
low.
feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth.
Better?
There we go.
I smell it in the air.
Well, Elon Musk doesn't
Much
understand
that once
that.
was is lost. For none now live who remember it.
Skip that.
You know what I can't stand the most?
That's really loud for me.
Posers.
Holy cow.
Fake fans. People who latch onto something because it's popular, not because they actually like it. At first, they're not really a problem. They can be annoying because they really don't know anything about whatever it is they're pretended to like. But that eventually fades. Usually, they'll hang around for a bit and either really begin to like the thing or just move on to the next popular topic. But some posers don't move on. They sit. They fester. That's usually bad enough. It's enough to break a fandom. Just completely ruin everyone's fun by this person dominating everything. But it's worse. Much, much worse when they try to co-opt things and force them to fit their politics. It's a thing of special magnificence.
I'm gonna say it's ironic. Because what he's like, I hate when they do this, and then proceeds to do this very thing.
I'm sensing incoming crap.
Yeah. So a little pretext. Just some guy. I've enjoyed his stuff in the past. His Lord of the Rings stuff. He kind of went off the deep end when he like absorbed politics completely. But it's his channel. He can do what he wants. But as for like the whole fake fans and everything, I mean, if I wanted to be like super hardcore picky about it, I could be like, well, you didn't use Galadriel's female voice to do the intro, and you just totally ruined that. So you're a fake fan poser. I could totally do that, but I don't because I get the idea. You expect what?
I suspect his video, his thoughts and conclusions are going to be based on the idea that he understands Tolkien when he actually doesn't.
You'll see.
Oh,
just think irony. That's all I gotta do.
Like so-called
Is that beat
Tolkien
coming
fans
through on the
bastardizing
recording?
Tolkien's work.
What?
Is there a beat coming through? Can you hear it?
Kind of, but only when you talk.
Okay.
To weaponize them against the people they hate. Such is the desperation of these fans that they perceive the villain race of orcs as representative of minority groups. Ironically, a few years ago, these same fake fans railed against the far left, making the same association. My, how the tables have turned. Case in point, Phony Stark himself Elon Musk, thoroughly failing to understand the Lord of the Rings. I don't want to give this man more of my time than necessary, so let's just get into it. Tony Stark has been on a bit of a Tolkien craze lately. He went on Joe Rogan's show and spouted some nonsense comparing small-town England to the Shire, and then repeated this on Twitter, where he said,
The ironic part is England is technically the Shire, so there's that. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, that's sort of more or
I mean,
less.
but he knows
That's
that
what Tolkien was thinking.
he's not a poser. He's not a fake fan. He knows this, right?
That's what Tolkien was thinking. It's like, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the Joe Rogan podcast with
No, I
Elon
didn't.
Musk. I saw
I
clips
saw a
of it.
couple clips of it.
I saw clips of it already before I saw this. So,
and I'll try to get as close to his real voice as possible, quote, "When Tolkien wrote about the hobbitses, he was referring to the gentlefolk of the English shires, who don't realize the horrors that take place far away."
now, I want to point out the comparison in which he's using versus the comparison that Elon Musk is using are not necessarily overlapping. Just pointing that out.
Right. From the Fellowship of the Ring, Book 1, Chapter 2, The Shadow of the Past, quote, "There were rumors of strange things happening in the world outside, and as Gandalf had not at the time appeared or sent any message for several years, Frodo gathered all the news he could."
Keep in mind, Frodo gathered all the news he could.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the key. That's the key here.
Elves, who seldom walked in the Shire, could now be seen passing westward through the woods in the evening, passing and not returning. But they were leaving Middle-earth and were no longer concerned with its troubles. There were, however, dwarves on the road in unusual numbers. The ancient east-west road ran through the Shire to its end at the Grey Havens, and the dwarves had always used it on their way to their mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news from distant parts.
And this is either still referencing Frodo specifically or all of the Shire, but it doesn't specify. But so far, Frodo's the only one being talked about here. So,
Okay. Wait. Time out. It's important to understand that when Tolkien's gimmick for this is that he found a bunch of text in like old Dark Ages Old English and translated them. It turns out that Alfwine the Mariner, went to the Tolaresia and they told this stuff to him, which means when he says they were the Hobbit chiefs from different parts, he's not saying every single Hobbit was talking to the dwarves to get the info.
yes.
He's not saying that. He's saying if the Hobbits wanted to get news, the dwarves were the chief source.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is kind of my point.
If they wanted any.
Any. As a rule, dwarves said little, and hobbits asked no more. But now Frodo often met strange dwarves of far countries, seeking refuge in the west. They were troubled, and some spoke in whispers of the enemy and of the land of Mordor. That name the hobbits only knew in legends of the dark past, like a shadow in the background of their memories. But it was ominous and disquieting. It seemed that the evil power in Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council, only to appear in greater strength in the old strongholds of Mordor. The Dark Tower had been rebuilt, it was said. From there, the power was spreading far and wide, and away far east and south there were wars and growing fear. Orcs were multiplying again in the mountains. Trolls were abroad, no longer dull-witted, but cunning, and armed with dreadful weapons. And there were murmured hints of creatures more terrible than all these, but they had no name. In short, the hobbits knew what was happening in the broader world.
Well, I mean, so far, all we know is that Frodo was pursuing this news, and the rest of the hobbits would not have been asking for, like, direct information on these going abouts and whatnot. They would have just been asking for random bips and bops, but he'll talk about that in a second.
They just wanted to stay out of it. That's what happens in the scene that follows that section, where Samwise Gamgee tries to convince Ted Sandyman and other hobbits at the Green Dragon that the stories they're hearing are real. The others think they're just fairy tales like they heard as kids. So, just to clarify for fake fans like Tony Stark, the hobbits live in the middle of nowhere, so they're largely ignored by the rest of the world, who think hobbits aren't even real, and they're happy to be ignored. They're not interested in conquest or wars. They've never fought amongst themselves and generally get along with different races, although they do tend to avoid the big folk, humans. You would know this if you read the prologue of the book, you fucking poser. But Phony Stark didn't stop there. Quote, they were able to live their lives in peace and tranquility, but only because they were protected by the hard men of Gondor.
Before he goes into this, Elon Musk is technically true to some extent,
Yes.
but he's not necessarily the most accurate way he could have said it. But the fact that he even knows that shows he's not a completely like fake fan. Like the fact that he even mentions Gondor and actually doesn't completely flub the point, because yes, the Dunedain and the men of the Rangers of the North are the ones actively protecting the Shire and that range or that region. If Mordor broke through Gondor and through Rohan, they would come to the Shire. Like it's going to show up at some point. So he's not entirely wrong, but he's not necessarily the most accurate. I'll put it that way. So what I think Elon Musk is trying to put down is what people might be more familiar with, since not everyone's familiar with the Dunedain or the Rangers. Not everyone's familiar with the Kingdom of Arnor, formerly collapsed and everything like that. Not everyone's familiar with that stuff. So he's appealing to something that might be more pop culturally aware of, aka Boromir saying, "By the blood of our people are your lands kept safe." And it's like, well, it's not technically true from the Shire perspective. It is technically true from the Mordor perspective, because if you have a horde of orcs, other unspeakable beings and stuff, being held back actively by the Ithilien Rangers and by Gondor and Osgiliath and everything, and they're stopping their progress into the west, well then yes, they are actively stopping them. But it's not an immediate threat to the Shire. And I think that's where he's just some guys trying to pinpoint that. It's kind of annoying.
No. The Dunedain are the remnants of the kingdom of Arnor, which was in the north and no longer exists.
I would also like to point out that the Dunedain are Númenóreans who founded both Arnor and Gondor, so they're technically similar / the same, just two different areas.
Gondor is in the south and is still around. This is the first 200 pages of the book and the first 2 hours of the film.
Well,
if you're
to be technical, Faramir, Boromir, and Denethor are Dunedain. They're full-blooded Númenóreans.
Yeah. But my point is that the Númenóreans founded both countries. And
No, I agree. I'm not just with that. I'm saying,
well, I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
just like,
when he says Gondor is protecting them, like, if you see just on this map where Mordor is, where Gondor is, and where Rohan is and everything, Elon Musk isn't wrong.
Yeah.
He's just not as accurate.
Dunedain and Ranger of the North are not synonyms. The Ranger of the North are a subset of the Dunedain. You know, so
yeah.
For a fan, how do you get this wrong? Oh, I know the answer. And it's not the weirdly homoerotic term hard men. See,
that's not even remotely. He had a chance to do a "that's what she said" joke, and he just totally sidestepped it and made a really stupid joke. But it is whatever.
Tony Stark probably only watched the movies, and he's thinking about Boromir's scene at the Council of Elrond, where Boromir says, "Long has my father, the steward of Gondor, kept the forces of Mordor at bay. By the blood of our people are your lands kept safe." However, that's not entirely true.
Entirely means there is some truth, which is kind of a self-defeating argument for him. So I don't know why he uses this.
And has a little to do with protecting the Shire, which is in the northwest of Eriador.
If you're protecting everybody west and north and south from Mordor, it's technically and literally true.
He's nitpicking because he hates Musk.
That's what I gathered when I watched this the first time, and I was just like, but if Gondor falls and Rohan falls, everybody else goes. Everybody else goes. So, and that's the thing is, like, let's say Angmar had arisen back up north, and technically speaking, there was attempts of the forces of the Dark Lord trying to push south simultaneously, which is why the dwarves and a good chunk of the elves did not come south to help at like Gondor's gates.
Yeah.
Because they're busy protecting the north. So it's like, well, what are they protecting the north from? Well, bad guys. Okay.
Well, paraphrasing from the novel, the smallest army Sauron had in the field was the one attacking Gondor.
Yeah.
The Earth.
Yeah. And he had even more in Mordor besides that. So it's like, and that was like, what, 10,000?
Yeah.
So he had plenty to go around, and the elves had their hands full. The dwarves had their axes full. All that shindig. So it's not like Angmar couldn't come back. It was just more of Angmar trying to make a return was not guaranteed to be successful based upon the actions of other things going on. And at some point, the Dunedain Rangers would probably be overrun because there's only so many of them, and they can't breed them as fast as you can breed unspeakable horrors.
It was impossible to win the War of the Ring by military means. It was impossible.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, even if they were playing full defense, it would have broken eventually because they had to actually kill the source. They couldn't just wait and hope.
Well, he had millions of orcs and millions of what were they called? The men from
the Black Numenoreans? Or the
No,
Haradrim? The Southrons?
Haradrim, yeah.
Okay.
All the ones from, you know how Mordor opens up to the west and it's a vast plain? There's a name for that area. And there are like millions of men who worship Morgoth to live there.
Well, there's the Easterlings, there's the Haradrim, there's a bunch. Yeah.
Thousands of miles away from Gondor. Those lands are kept safe by the Rangers, the Dunedain, as Aragorn explains in Fellowship, Book 2, Chapter 2, The Council of Elrond. Quote, "And this I will say to you, Boromir, ere I end. Lonely men are we, rangers of the wild, hunters, but hunters ever of the servants of the enemy, for they are found in many places, not in Mordor only. If Gondor, Boromir, has been a stalwart tower, we have played another part. Many evil things there are that your strong walls and bright swords do not stay. You know little of the lands beyond your bounds. Peace and freedom, do you say? The North would have known them little but for us. Fear would have destroyed them. But when dark things come from the houseless hills, or creep from sunless woods, they fly from us. What roads would any dare tread? What safety would there be in quiet lands, or in the houses of simple men at night, if the
Homes, but yes.
Dunedain were asleep, or were all gone into the grave? Yet less thanks have we than you. Travelers scowl at us, and countrymen give us scornful names. Strider I am to one fat man who lives within a day's march of foes that would freeze his heart, or lay his little town in ruin if he were not guarded ceaselessly. Yet we would not have it otherwise. If simple folk are free from care and fear, simple they will be, and we must be secret to keep them so. That has been the task of my kindred, while the years have lengthened and the grass has grown. And that last part is key. The Dunedain don't protect the lands out of a sense of superiority, racial or anything else. They do it because it's the right thing to do, and they do it without expecting or demanding anything in return. That's a huge contrast from the nonsense Phony Stark is going on about, where he frames these hard men as essentially men willing to do the dirty work. By the way, this hard man idea is another way of saying strong man, and when you look up which political movement constantly talks about strong men, well, I'll let Phony Stark himself give you a hint.
God.
Yeah, that's not the one you want to be quoting, son. By the way,
Yeah. I felt he was reaching pretty hardcore for this because I don't remember if he actually shows the clip from Joe Rogan, but I don't think he does. But we see everyone tries to use that clip as like some sort of ammunition and whatnot, and it just doesn't hold when it comes to that. And it's not even like about the political aspect of things. It's more of aligning the correct possibilities of what the text contextually says with what actually is being mentioned. So Elon Musk is talking about how, England's the Shire and they're being invaded and there needs to be hard men to basically protect it. And so it's kind of like the whole, strong men create good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. That whole cycle. It's kind of that that whole spiel he's trying to run with. So in this, it's like, okay, if England is being overrun by those who care not for it and its culture, its people, or anything, because they're selfish invaders. They came to do what they want to do, and they don't have any care for anything else. And they're going to ruin everything for their own pleasure or leisure. Those people show up. They're not there because they need a legitimate place to be and to seek safety and asylum. They're there because they want to take advantage of something. And we've seen so many points of context that point to that. Why is it that weird then that people would protect that shire from those invaders? That just, it doesn't seem that strange. But ironically, when he covers the Dunedain Rangers and that quote that Aragorn does, it's like he's almost inadvertently saying, yes, England should have the gangs of Britain that basically go around and protect Britain from these invaders because they're the men of the North. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. That doesn't sound like what you think it might sound like. And I don't think that's what you were intending to go with, but that's what it comes across as. Because he's not thinking about it that way, because it's not his political persuasion.
I think his Musk derangement syndrome has caused him to make this video.
Probably. But he went pretty politically off the deep end a while back, and ironically, I think it was when he was up against Nick Rekieta talking about some politics stuff, and those both have gone a different route.
Yeah.
Tolkien was not a fan of that movement in its Spanish, German, or original Italian versions.
And now he's reaching because he's saying, hey, this thing here, that the clip of him, my heart goes out to you thing. He's taking that and saying, oh, that means it's, the funny mustache people. And then he's going, oh, by the way, because I brought up the funny mustache people inadvertently or deliberately, but like completely sidestepping everything. Because of that, let me talk about what Tolkien thought about that.
Oh, but Fonda Stark wasn't done. Quote,
there are a lot of things that the Nazis sort of absorbed into their movement, like the swastika, like pick and choosing from Nietzsche, the concept of straw man, all that. They absorbed their movement they absorbed into it, which predate them and, have nothing to do with their actual movement.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with their movement that they would take, like religion.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the nice man who was brutally murdered while walking his dog will happen to all of England if the tide of illegal immigration is not turned.
Notice he said illegal immigration, not actual regular standard immigration. Funny how that works.
Which should be stopped anyway.
Huh?
Britain isn't just having an illegal immigration problem. Their illegal immigration of allowing a large amount of a particular religion in is destroying their country.
Well, I would say it's more like so you can have your normal migration, and then they check, like, do you have a reason to be here? Make sure you're not like a criminal or anything like that. They want to make sure you're going to adhere to the laws and whatnot, as opposed to being like, yeah, a whole bunch of people showed up and the government's like, let's shovel them in so we can get points or something or whatever. And then, like, because there's no real reason for them to shove that much in when it's like, what, 90% guys, like no actual families and stuff. It's like, well, if you're not bringing in the actual families, why are you just importing a whole bunch of dudes? That doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
okay. So, you know how a few years ago there was this trend on the far left of claiming that Tolkien coded the Orcs, Haradrim, and Easterlings as racial minorities? Remember that? Because I remember that, because I made videos refuting that claim because Tolkien literally didn't do that. Now, this is where someone will quote letter 210, where Tolkien describes the Orcs as squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow-skinned, with wide mouths and slant eyes. In fact, degraded and repulsive versions of the, to Europeans, least lovely Mongol types, ignoring that the statement makes it clear that the Orcs are an altered version of what humans would look like, and the perception is based on a cultural, in this case, European, bias. They might also forget that both the Haradrim and Easterlings were manipulated by Morgoth and Sauron, who used their power over darkness to control these men and turn them against the men of the West. Tolkien repeatedly states that such was the enemy's power that even when they were defeated and long gone, their influence lingered. This wasn't just metaphorical, but literal. Morgoth's power lay like a shadow on all he touched, from the land to animals to men. However, the reason I'm bringing this up is that when the far left made those claims and people like me refuted them, posers like Phony Stark cheered me on, agreeing that the enemy's minions don't represent minorities.
Yes, but Elon Musk isn't using them as minorities equating to evil. He's comparing the situation, not the distinct persons. I don't know why this is a difficult concept to put together, because if I say, let me use an analogy, you've got these bad people coming to invade this nice, comfy, slow but happy life of a whole bunch of people in an area, and then we need to stop those evil people from coming in. So it's a good versus evil thing, not a, well, minorities are evil because of that, use, because it's not anything to do with the minorities being evil. It's people with ill intent coming to harm those with good intent, and therefore it's a good versus evil thing. Doesn't mean that every single Easterling or every single Haradrim or every single other person who has worked or is under the realm of control by either Melkor, Morgoth, or Sauron are inherently evil. There were, technically speaking, rebellions in those areas as well, because people didn't want to go with it. So,
to be technical, humans and elves cannot be inherently evil.
I mean, dwarves have had a pretty bad history in some areas.
Dwarves kind of count as humans.
I mean, elves, the Noldor did kind of bad things too.
Dwarves count among the second born. They live mortal lives, die, and pass. But no, because we have free will, so you have a choice.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, the Noldor did something bad stuff, so the elves have done bad things that they have decided to do themselves. The dwarves have done bad things that they decided to do themselves, and men have decided to do bad things, and it's just the nature.
Why Tolkien was troubled with the nature of the orcs, because he had several different origins of them.
Yeah,
like they first started out as automatons that were no free will, motivated by evil.
Yeah.
Then they became like an inherently evil race. He wasn't happy with that. Then he had the origin where they were corrupted elves, which is the last origin that was specified in the publication, which kind of worked out for their fate, that their souls could be freed when they died to go to the halls,
Yeah.
So.
And yet, here's Phony Stark comparing those minions invading the Shire to the tide of illegal immigration, implying that real-world minorities are just like they supposedly...
Okay, first off, just some guy says it's related to the tide of illegal immigration. But he doesn't say, yeah, illegal immigration should stop, but legal migration should still continue. Okay, like, he doesn't say that. And he brings up, and it's like, okay, so somebody's saying we should stop criminal activity. Well, illegal immigration is, by definition, criminal activity. It's like, how dare you point at minorities and call them criminals? It's like, well, I mean, they're literally, by definition, doing that if they're entering illegally. If they're not entering illegally, well, then they're not breaking the law, and therefore they're not the target of the post. So I don't understand why that's a complicated thing to understand.
Evil races in the story. That's one hell of a contradiction. So, which is it, posers? I know what Tolkien thinks because he explained his positions in his letters. But what do y'all think? Do you think the orcs, Haradrim, and Easterlings are not representative of minorities?
It doesn't have to be about specifically the minorities. It has to be about good people versus bad people, and that's the case of literally any story. Pick good guys and pick bad guys. They could both be white, they could both be black, they could both be Asian, they could both be whatever you want to be. They could be the exact same, but one is doing evil purposes, evil intents, and the other one is not doing evil purposes and evil intents. So it doesn't matter if they're related to minorities or not. The purpose is that the scenario of the Shire being protected from evil by men, specifically the Rangers up north and Gondor and Rohan in the south. That scenario, it's a scenario. He's not referencing explicitly the material, right? So if you're not explicitly saying, the evils, he's using a comparison of like in the story of Tolkien, these are the characters that are protecting the Shire. He doesn't even mention the evil outside of it being evil. He doesn't say, oh, explicitly these guys because they're just like minorities. Like, oh yeah, those, Somalians, they're basically orcs. He doesn't even do that. He doesn't even come anywhere close to that. He's just saying the evil that's happening inside Britain is stuff that needs to be protected by the hard men of Gondor, which would also tell you.
So did just some guy make a hard left turn?
He's been a Marxist for a long time.
Yeah. So that means he's ignoring the problems in Britain because of both legal and illegal immigration. And to him, whatever.
Yeah.
Or are they? Because you can't have it both ways. Is this what you think of brown people? Because y'all made the comparison all on your own.
Easterlings aren't brown.
Nobody made you do it. That kind of implies that's what you think.
Technically, orcs aren't even brown.
So I'd like you to clarify. Even though I already know the answer, I've been black all 4 decades of my life. Indulge me. Also, while Tolkien's attitude on immigration has never made
Well, if he's black and he's arguing about brown people, I don't know how he can crisscross those, but okay.
explicit in his works or his letters, there are examples in The Lord of the Rings where Tolkien talks about refugees, foreigners, and outsiders, specifically in Bree, Rohan, and the Shire. In all 3 instances, we're shown that fear and hostility towards outsiders either comes from ignorance or deliberate manipulation by the enemy. This happens in Bree with the squinty-eyed man, who's probably a half-orc, in Rohan under Theoden's orders, and in the Shire once it's routed. Saruman is behind all 3 of these. The half-orc works for him, he controlled Theoden and manipulated Wormtongue, and he took over the Shire. Now, this is where someone will mention Butterbur claiming that refugees of an unsavory nature flooded Bree. Yes, he did say that, but again, that was because Saruman sent them. These are the people the squinty-eyed man who works for Saruman mentioned at the beginning of the story.
Okay, hold on.
What the fuck?
Hold on.
Like, squinty-eyed man is one dude. Butterman referring to people. He's referring to people passing through Bree. Maybe the elves who stop in for a meal on the way to the west. Maybe the dwarves going north to south. I don't think he referred to the dwarves that way.
It could have even been some Southrons, but like he ruins his own argument when he says, "Well, yes, they were being sent by an evil guy." Okay, if they're being sent by an evil guy into a peaceful area and they're not good people and they're going to cause mischief and harm, what does that mean? Maybe we should use some hard men of Gondor and some rangers of the north to freaking stop them. Maybe. Like, does he not understand that this collapses his own entire argument? Like, I don't get it. Arturian, what are your thoughts? Or did he fall asleep? I bet he fell asleep.
Arturian has been consumed by nanites.
And Z's.
People might also bring up that the Shire had gates, but again, that's because Saruman forces the hobbits to make them after he takes over the Shire.
I don't think Elon Musk once brought up gates, but thank you for creating a narrative that he didn't.
Even with Rohan, when Eomer and his men run into Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, it's stated that the general rule is to allow wanderers to pass through Rohan as they will. It's only after Saruman takes control over Theoden that the rule is changed.
Well, the idea was that there was no need to border patrol your territory because it was just assumed that goodwill and good-natured people would be the ones passing through. Not that they were just like, oh yeah, there's some Uruks and some, goblins and some orcs. Yeah, we'll just let them through. No. It was they're just normal people passing through. And when it turns out they are, in fact, not just normal people, that's when they go, well, hold on, we're going to change the policy a little bit. It's like, well, yes, that's what you would do as a country with your borders.
And when Éomer tries to lay the blame for the new rule on others, Aragorn demands that Éomer accept responsibility for his own decisions and choose which rule to follow. It's tempting to misread the text and conclude that Tolkien opposes foreigners and refugees, but that contradicts what happened.
Foreigners and refugees are not always illegal immigrants. Why are we conflating these two things? If they were...
Because it's sketchy.
Oh, welcome back, Arturian.
Sorry.
Your nap good?
Little.
Okay, well, good for you.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah, well, I mean, besides a whole bunch of inconsistencies and poor argumentations, but yeah.
In the story. We're shown many times that hostility and cruelty towards outsiders violates the principle of compassion. That's a major theme in the story. It also
Agreed. But I don't see that ever once was the principle of compassion ever applied to the forces of the Dark Lord. Do either of you guys ever remember that?
No.
I can't think of any.
Huh. So it's almost like, yeah, they hunted down and genocided all of the orcs because they were just evil.
Well, no, that never happened.
I mean...
That's just movie magic.
No, I'm saying like
No. So,
in terms of like
in Tolkien-
Aragorn fighting off both the Haradrim, the Easterlings, making peace, but also purging the middle of Middle Earth from more or less the wickedness.
So in the writings, okay, so people know that they just genocide all the orcs. Again, Tolkien struggled with the nature of the orcs. It's important to remember early. So the orcs were bred to be very malleable from mind control. Okay. And when they weren't being mind controlled, they often have not killed each other or split back into their orc tribes and whatever. And they're not very efficient.
They buggered off,
Plus they-
basically.
Yeah, they're not very efficient even at taking care of themselves because their soul resents their body, basically. They sort of mass died off on their own, retreated to the caves. And I believe somewhere in either the letters or History of Middle-earth, Tolkien's comment is like, while there was fighting against the orcs when they attacked, for the most part, the orcs died off on their own due to their inability to survive.
Well, there was campaigns that Aragorn and Éomer had pushed, and that got rid of a chunk of them. But obviously, he didn't go into detail about every explicitly single orc and whatnot. But I imagine that if you're in Rohan or in Gondor or Arnor or whatever area, and you're hearing about goblin attacks or orc attacks, the powers that be in that area would probably go hunt them down because they're causing problems for that. So, and in that sense, they're either going to be staying out of everything, or they're going to get purged. One of the two, because they're
the majority of orcs don't live in Gondor, Arnor, or
well, I know, but I'm saying like in the Misty Mountains or anywhere far up in the north or something. Like whatever they are, they're probably not going to act out too much, because if they did, they got wiped out, and then they didn't act up because they're dead. So
also ignores the difference between perception and reality. In the real world, people, mostly conservatives, perceive outsiders as dangerous and a threat, even though the vast majority of immigrants and refugees are...
I believe they call that a straw man, because that's not the take that has been taken. So, okay.
not violent. However, in the Lord of the Rings...
well, not violent. Well, we have historical evidence that people who are foreigners or outsiders who come into a place that they do not adhere to the rules of law, and they do not adhere to the integration process of which they integrate into that society, not expect the society to integrate into them, and trying to change things, but also doing as they will because they see it as morally acceptable when it's against the morals of the place that they are trying to come into. These are very distinctive different things that we know are factually evidential. So doesn't really hold the same argument for him.
We're explicitly told or shown that the influx of foreigners literally are an invasion force under the control of the enemy. This isn't a handful of bad apples and a good bunch. This is the
Yeah, it's a handful of good people, good apples, and a big bad bunch.
enemy, Saruman and Sauron, intentionally creating chaos, causing good people to flee, and then hiding their agents among those people to sow chaos and violence. That's not what's happening in the real world, no matter how much people like Tony Stark
It's probably worse, honestly.
want it to be true. Now, with that last bit
Yeah,
about the English,
Aristotle wasn't dating a Chinese spy. That didn't happen. You know,
It didn't. You're totally imagining it.
yeah.
allying with hard men to fight for their survival, I think it's crazy that a guy who doesn't even live in the country is trying to stoke racial and religious conflict in England. Unlike right-wing clowns like Bonus Stark, I'm not going to pretend to.
Do I have to live in Britain to care about Britain's future? Because I wasn't aware that was a requirement.
Wasn't South Africa founded by Great Britain?
I honestly don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me. I'm pretty sure it was like people
I
going
mean,
somewhere
Tyrion,
else.
you're a European expert. You should know this.
I don't know. I've never seen that many. Whatchamacallit?
I don't know what you call it. What are you?
Know all there is to know about the immigration situation in England or broader Europe. What I will say is keep J.R.R. Tolkien out of this bullshit. He has nothing to do with this fight. Don't drag his works into this, especially when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
How the
Apparently, neither
turntables.
does just some guy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, don't get me wrong. Normally, he's really competent about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's work in general. But this was a massive L because he doesn't understand that his own argument is defeated by his own argument. Like, he's like, "Oh, that you don't need to worry about foreign invaders. Foreign invaders are the problem, but you need to have these people to protect you from foreign invaders. Those are the people that are in the story that are protecting you from the foreign invaders." Wait a minute.
And just in case
Oh.
anyone feels
Well, not only that, but like, I think I brought up once or twice. Like, he's deliberately interpreting Tolkien's text in a way that Tolkien did not intend.
Well, he's utilizing Tolkien, ironically, the same way that Elon Musk is utilizing him. He's trying to use it to back his point or his position.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, as long as you do it accurately, you can do so. But I don't know if the professor would care either way if that was the case, because he probably wouldn't like either of the arguments being as the way they are. But I also don't think he would appreciate Britain being destroyed, considering that's his home. So, I mean, it's a very double-edged sword in that regard. And it's one of those things where, like, whether you like Elon Musk or not, you should be able to understand and comprehend what he's trying to say without struggling. And from the flip side, you should be able to understand that Tolkien's works is a battle of good and evil. Yet, for the majority of that battle of good and evil, you have what we would consider minority groups being on the bad side, and the normal, quote-unquote, people on the good side. And you're like, okay, well, why was that? Well, because that's just how he made it. Not because he was pointing out to anybody in specific or whatever, because there are probably bad people amongst the good guys. It's just...
Actually,
Go ahead.
in the modern context, right, the minority were the good guys, the hobbits. They're a minority.
Yeah. But we don't want to talk about them because, they're cool and fat and happy and stuff. But it's... In trying to defend Tolkien from being used politically, because, how dare you do that? He uses them politically, and how dare he does that?
Yeah.
It's just everything he said to me hit like, okay, well, I could apply this to you, just some guy, just as much as I could apply this to Elon Musk. Except Elon Musk was saying, here's a scenario, and just some guy saying, here's a one-to-one picture. And it's like, but that's not what Elon Musk was saying. He specifically put out like, this is how good guys stop bad guys from ruining places that are peaceful. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, so you're saying that these guys are minorities. I'm like, if it was somebody like, let's go back to ye olden England and Britain and stuff before everything was really established, and you have the freaking Norsemen coming across. Well, you had the kingdoms of Britain preventing the Norse from coming. They're not minorities. They're the same. They're all freaking European.
Yeah.
But at the same time, There were the people who came with ill intent to conquer, to take over that territory from the people that were already there. So the soldiers and the kingdoms there were fighting them off, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully. But the point is that if you're using that as a scenario, you're saying we're stopping the invaders from coming into our territory, and we need hard or strong men in order to do that. Why do you think the U.S. military is strong men? They're hard men. They're willing to do the thing that nobody wants to do for their country, for their home, for a good cause or a reason, sometimes good cause. So you can use it applied anyway. It's just using Tolkien to explain it to people is like, yes, the Shire is like this hobbit heaven, essentially, and it's a perfect place to be, and from that perfect place dwells all this good. And then from outside, the forces of evil and darkness are trying to move into it. And then hard, strong men that are good are trying to prevent them from getting there and destroying them. So it's like, it's pretty obvious that a scenario is not the same as a one-to-one representation. The thing with Rings of Power is that it was a one-to-one representation. They're trying to say, this is this way. And it's like, we're saying, no, that's not this way. So it's just, I don't know, it's really frustrating.
Was compelled to claim Tolkien would support this racist bullshit.
It's not racist. I'm sorry, if a criminal's trying to stab you, shoot you, behead you, or anything like that, and just because they're of a different skin tone does not make you racist to protect yourself.
You're just disagreeing. Like I don't know. You're overthinking it. He's saying racist, and you would disagree with him. Must be a racist. It's just classic leftist logic.
I mean, yes, but I'm also taking it very seriously because that's not how it works. But I'm also autistic in the weaponized sense, so it doesn't follow, and he's trying to push it so hard that it follows. It's like saying, if somebody breaks into your house and threatens to kill you and your family and your children, your dog, your cat, whatever, you're racist if you try to stop him. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
Imagine all the leftist NPCs nodding their heads along, going, yeah. This video.
I mean, if you read the comments, it's pretty wild. But it is funny, though, because from the perspective of, I'm sure you've got, well, at least you, Matt. I don't know, Arturian, if you ever heard of this. So I'll ask you, Arturian. Have you ever heard somebody say, like, when there's like a home invasion or something? I don't know how many you guys have over in Europe, but here in America, if you have a home invasion where somebody breaks in, so you have a group of teens break into a house and the homeowner shoots and kills them, and then they're like, what, you value your possessions and everything more than these people's lives? It's like, but the actual flip side of that, because that's what just some guy is saying. He's just like, you value this stuff more than human lives. But on the flip side, it's like, well, they didn't value their own lives enough to come into my house, right? Like, to threaten me and mine, they didn't value their lives above my possessions because they came to my house for my possessions. It's that same thing.
The law here is like, and I know some of the states have it as well. It's not every state, but some of the states have it as well. And that is that you are supposed to avoid violence at all costs. So if they invade your home,
Well, yes, but you also live in a communist hellhole.
I said some states have it as well. Are you calling those communist hellholes as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
But
so
no,
my hospital Wi-Fi went down.
oh, you're good.
But it switched to
What?
Wi-Fi off.
We can still hear
Which
you.
stays on 5G.
But
Can you still hear me?
yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
I think the hospital Wi-Fi is doing its. It's going to die for an hour or two. It managed to switch to 5G before I lost the total connection, so I'm on 5G.
It's all good. I mean, it's still pretty good, but no, like if a criminal is breaking into your house, regardless of if they're a minority or not, if a criminal breaks into your house, it's wrong to fight back. That's a stance, right? That would be just some guy's stance in that particular instance because of his consistency with his own argument here. He might debate that in totality if he ever watched this, which I don't see why he would, but if he ever did, that would be why. Now, from the flip side, what is the same scenario, but from the different opposite, where somebody's saying you value your possessions more than you value human life, and it's like they valued my possessions more than they valued their human life, because there's the risk of them perishing, being injured, harmed, whatever the case might be. That's the thing, is that Elon Musk is saying one and he's saying the other, but he's trying to paint it as if they're talking about the same thing the exact same way, and that's not how the case is.
So the argument, like legally, historically, which Europe has apparently abandoned, and so have states like New York and all that, is your home is there to protect you from outside stuff, whether it be elements or bears or other people. If someone breaches your home and it's there to protect you, you are allowed to assume by default they're attempting to harm you.
Yeah.
So that's the doctrine, like castle doctrine, and in home self-defense is your home is there to protect you. So if someone's breaching it, you're allowed to assume they're attempting to harm you.
And the other option would be like, for example, Arturian, when you guys have that law there. Is the law protecting the citizen, or are they protecting the criminal? It's a pretty obvious answer, but yeah.
It's mostly protecting the criminal
there
because
you go.
when
So
you defend
should
yourself,
that be a law
it's
then?
a very arduous process.
But no. Like here. Should something that protects the criminal from their own actions, their own responsibility? Because if somebody comes into your house at 3 a.m, they were not invited. The doors were locked on purpose. They broke into the house, and there's no way for you to tell if they just want to steal a wad of cash, if they want to take your TV, whatever the case might be. But even if they were, that's stuff that's not theirs, and that is harmful to you economically if it's not harmful to you physically, right? Like there's methods in which either way it's harmful to you, so you don't know what their method is. It's presumed that they came there for some goodies that they can either sell, make some money, cash, whatever the case might be, so that they can live whatever lifestyle they want to. But the point is that the law is protecting the persons that are determined to break the law. Not the law protects them as in they have rights and you can't, disrupt those rights. It's they're ignoring the rights of the person who is the homeowner, the person who owns the property or whatever, and the person themselves in favor of, the law. Like the law's not going to favor the homeowner as much as it's going to favor the criminal, because the criminal apparently has more rights than the person who is the law-abiding citizen, which is a very strange thing to say, and put that and say, well, that's the law. The law is supposed to protect the law-abiding citizens from criminals, not the other way around.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this from letter 81 to his son Christopher, written in 1944. Quote, "We knew Hitler was a vulgar and ignorant little cad, in addition to any other defects, or the source of them. But there seems to be many vulgar and ignorant little cats who don't speak German, and who, given the same chance, would show most of the other Hitlerian characteristics. There was a solemn article in the local paper seriously advocating systematic exterminating of the entire German nation as the only proper course after military victory, because, if you please, they are rattlesnakes and don't know the difference between good and evil." What of the writer? The Germans have just as much a right to declare the Poles and Jews exterminable vermin, subhuman, as we have to select the Germans. In other words, no right, whatever they have done. Like Tolkien says in...
Okay, first off, there's a difference between conquering someone else's territory and then exterminating a people group versus your people being the ones who are conquered. So I don't understand why he's trying to conflate people purging their own people, like the Germans purged the Jews, with the same as like we're just being peaceable folk. No. Everything's going around, and then just out of the blue, we're just gonna go German on people.
I think so. When Tolkien wrote that letter, which is why I said, as soon as he cited it, because I remember that one. he's saying that he's comparing people to the same people like had the same attitude as Hitler and other Hitlerites or whatever. There are people in Britain who are advocating to wipe out all the Germans, and he's saying that's equally as bad as Hitler people and his people wiping out the Jews and all.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's the thing is they're not comparable. Not even slow. Like one saying, just set them out to pasture, put them back where they were, or send them someplace that is okay with them wreaking havoc in their own countries or whatever. But don't do that here,
No.
as opposed to just wiping
Tolkien's
them out.
talking something specific. He's referring to something specific.
Well, yes,
There was
Tolkien. I'm referring to England, but yeah.
Because of how bad the German bombing of England and all was, there was a movement. I would say sizable, but not like a large, like 10-20%, like some number like that, who wanted to exterminate all the Germans.
Yeah.
Because remember, they had a previous world war with them. They had the Franco-Prussian War.
They keep causing problems.
Yeah, there was a lot of. That's why they did the. Remember after World War One, the France and England decided to punish Germany with horrific economic conditions because there was a lot of like hatred towards Germany from doing all the stuff they did, and
which isn't entirely misplaced because of their actions, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you should wipe them out.
It's understandable, but it's stupid because you unless you're gonna wipe them out, you need to grow them economically and socially so they have closer ties to you, and you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, but if you knock them down and then make them live in terrible conditions and they're always being ridiculed and everything, they're just going to be hostile towards you in the future. Like that's just the nature of things.
Because it's feeding into the socialist hands.
Yeah, but it's like it's the human nature, the human element of the factors that we're all talking about. But to say that that's what England is trying to do, or that Elon wants England to do, is absurd. Because no one's saying, let's round up all the illegal immigrants and execute them. Let's put them in gas chambers. Let's, mass graves them. No one's saying that. They're saying get them out because they're doing harm. Now, those who have been caught that are actually guilty of doing harm need to be dealt with according to the extent of the law as it was intended to be, not by the local politician who decides that whoever they want to vote for them will get away with whatever they want. That's not how that works. But that's how politicians play the system. So I don't understand, like, whether you like immigrants as a whole or as only legal immigrants or illegal immigrants, you care about them. You could be compassionate towards both sides, but you also have to understand that one side is breaking the law and one side is not breaking the law. One side should be integrating. The other side has no decision to integrate, really, because they're by definition criminals. So I just...
His letter, you can't fight the enemy with his own ring without turning into an enemy. But unfortunately, Gandalf's wisdom seems long ago to have passed with him into the true West. Still, even without that wisdom, that doesn't mean we should give credence or power to war-hungry racist dipshits like Phony Stark. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.
Indeed, what do you know?
You apparently don't know anything. You know nothing, just some guy.
You know nothing, just some guy. Yeah, but that's
some dummy.
That was painful to watch the first time, and it was painful to watch the second time. Why they don't be aware of the fact of what he actually said? Like, why can't he recognize what he said versus the counter argument and the fact that he supports the counter argument while trying to debunk it multiple times throughout that entire. And I'm flabbergasted that people could take this seriously.
Yeah.
But he brought Tolkien into it way more than Elon Musk did. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
Well, he's like I said, he's catering to the leftist NPC audience, who click and buy his crap,
Yeah.
And that's but that's how that whole site is. We can probably find tons of videos where they do stuff like that. I'm not encouraging you.
But yeah, that's the video, and I think we mentioned throughout the video pretty much
Well, let's try to
every.
do a positive Tolkien video next week.
I wish there was positive Tolkien videos to be had, but I gotta find them.
Well, the ones you posted
That's
in the
evil,
channel, grab
man.
one of those, and we can do an in-depth discussion where we agree or disagree and have a creative discussion.
You'll have to point them out to me when we're done because I don't remember. I've posted so
You know
many
the
things.
Tolkien lore videos?
Oh, you're wait no. I mean the Tolkien
That guy
Society.
posts a ton of those Tolkien lore videos.
You'll message to me later and we'll figure it out. But
Okay.
yeah, as it is, that's all I could really think about because it was a very. It makes my head hurt when people talk like that and they don't realize how stupid it sounds when they aren't consistent with their own positions. And I mean, this could apply to us as well. Like we could be inconsistent with our positions and be blind to it, but at the same time, I'm not worried if somebody calls me out for it, I'll reevaluate something and go for it. But I don't see that being a thing that just some guy does.
Well, hey, if you watch one of our 7-hour videos, audience, you'll find us arguing around and around about how we each think each other is wrong. You know?
But I'm right, obviously. Anyway,
I'm always right.
Yeah, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. It's like, okay, Spartacus, calm yourself.
But Sage is always right about Europe because he's the European expert.
Yeah, Arturian's the fake European expert.
Of course I am. You just need Sage.
Yeah. Sage never falls asleep during the videos.
Yeah. Sage never fell asleep in videos. Arturian, what do you have to excuse yourself?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna excuse myself for my flaws.
Those aren't flaws, dude. That's like a
It's one of his
negative.
Belgian civil rights to be able to take a nap during videos.
But only if criminals are invading his house.
Yeah. It's in the Belgian Constitution, you know.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for the video. So thanks everybody for watching. Matt, I don't know if you have anything coming up or not.
Tomorrow night on Wednesday on Joker Voices channel. Wednesday night is overbooked. We'll talk about pro wrestling. And then Thursday
that'll
on
be
Roman
backwards in the past, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm not giving specific topics.
Yeah.
And on Thursday night, I'm on Roman and the Empire's channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have various topics we discuss, some specific like a movie or some general topics, you know. Like last week's topic was great leading men, you know. And of course, my hospital internet died in the middle of me talking about my subject. But
because of course it
is. Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Arturian, you don't have anything, so we can skip you. But
yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's not in the Belgian Constitution. He's not allowed to have anything.
Yeah, he's not allowed to have anything. It all has to go to the criminals by law. Yeah. So, thanks everybody for hanging out. Feel free to check the description down below and check out my socials for Twitter/X and Discord. Discord being my favorite place personally. Check out the memes there. We got Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth downloads if you would like to check that out from the fan-made projects. It's not my project, I just support it. Also, you can vote for what you'd like me to live stream, and there's options there. Currently, I am playing through The Hobbit Game Boy Advance edition, so that's fun. And we'll be going through the Game Boy Advance, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings games, all of them, and then from the Game Boy Advance perspective, and then we will move over to the full actual games from like regular consoles and PC and stuff. So that'll be fun. Come hang out in the chat. That's on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then videos like this will come out on Friday and Sunday at noon Central Standard Time, so 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also check out the description for the other content creators like Matt and Crimson and several other ones that are cool people to watch. They make good content. Check them out. See if you enjoy them.
Someday I will make content again. Someday.
And then also below that is businesses like MetaPCs, ayakamods, and DEG mods that are companies that support our little corner of the universe on the interwebs. And I'm not sponsored by any of them, but I do think they're companies that are worth supporting. So take that as you will. So Thanks everybody for sticking with us, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Walk in the light, my friends.
Bye.